All right, I think it's working fine, yep. Okay, Cooperative Legacy Project interview number 45. August 1st, 2006, we're visiting with Huron Area Credit Union activist Emma Glanzer. Emma, where and when were you born?
I was born, no, that door does that because the wind. 3/20/18.
Okay. And where was that at?
That was on a farm at, I don't know, at Carpenter. We're only, I think it was 2 or 3 miles from Highway 28.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm in Beetle County.
Mm-hmm.
And right in the corner of Spink, Kingsbury, Beetle, there's another one, Four Corner. Kingsbury, did I say Kingsbury?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And where did your family live before they settled out here in South Dakota, and when did they settle out here?
They came from Bridgewater area.
Okay.
Yeah. And my dad's brother came from Russia on the boat.
Russian-German or German-Russian?
Well,
Whatever.
Russia,
Yeah.
German, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. You have brothers and sisters?
5 brothers and 2 sisters, 8. 8, 9, 10, that means 10 of us during those drought years at home.
There's a lot of kids.
Yes. And there was no way to find a job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What was your father's name?
Paul.
And what sort of a person was he? You want to talk about him a little bit?
He was the greatest. Yeah, he was a great father.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he was on school board, township, and the elevators.
Mm-hmm.
Had to take inventory at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Co-op elevators.
And sold insurance for Millbank.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very active in his township. Yep.
And
he was a teacher before he was married.
Okay.
Yeah.
With that teaching at what level? High school?
Grades.
Grade school.
Grades.
Country school?
See, I've got a picture of my family, my mother's family. All.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And he also ran for some political office. He was a Republican,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't win. But he didn't do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, almost everybody was a Republican in those days.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, he
Okay.
was one of the. He was one of the few in that area that had an education.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what was your mother's name?
Sarah.
Okay.
Yeah. She came from a large family.
Mm-hmm.
She did all the cooking.
There were a lot of large
With no
families.
convenience. The water was carried every place. Milk was carried every place.
Mm-hmm.
It was buckets and buckets carried.
Yeah. What are some of your early memories from, like, I suppose from the 1920s? It'd be maybe when you first started.
Yeah. Well, I left home at 37 when I graduated from high school.
Mm-hmm.
I came to this town. I never had a nickel. I never had a purse. I never had a comb. And I worked for board and room.
Mm.
And they talk about living now. There were live-ins then. And the first family was she had 2 children. I think they were probably around 11 and 13. Well, the boyfriend was with the railroad, so he moved out. So there was no need for me. So the next place I went to, the husband was a barber at the old Newberry building, Newblue. And his wife was apprenticing under Hazel Mahone. beauty shop, and they had 2 children, a boy and a girl. And they were Alpena originally. He was originally from Alpena. And then I went to Northwest College of Commerce and worked for part of my tuition. And I took care of those 2 kids. I saw that they got to school and that I was there when they came home from school. Well, there was a note on my desk. An attorney wanted to see me in the Newberry building. So I went over there, and I wasn't scared because I didn't do anything wrong. And he asked me if I knew the family. I said, yes. I said, they're a nice family. I said, he's a barber and she's apprenticing. They can someday work in the same shop. Well, he told me they were getting a divorce. So he took the boy and she took the girl, and I went on for another job, another babysitting job. In fact, I babysat for Mark Atwood, who at that time had the Travelers. Is there a Travelers life insurance? Was there Travelers?
Travelers? Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I babysit a lot for their boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the moment I found a job, I quit everything. I never got it, never finished college or anything. Yeah.
And that would have been the late 1930s?
I went to work, I graduated at 37. I spent a year, 80. Well, I started at Armour's 42, but before I was working around, I worked at elevators, in Reese's. Well, there wasn't enough to do. I could see that, So Armour's run an ad in the paper.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked the boss for his car, if I could drive out to Armour's for a plant. He gave me his car. And I went out there. So he said, well, you start Monday. So I started Monday. And they were adding up the quarterly reports and the wages. And they've been and so we said, you try and help these girls find where they're all. See, I said, okay. He said, but I gotta go find a machine for you. See, and I said, I don't need a machine if they have already figures in there, and the Social Security was only 1.5%. And I said, that's easy for me, just take half and add it on. And in no time, I had that. I found the error. So he says, you come back every day, and I stayed for 42 years.
Mm.
Yeah.
Was it a pretty good place to work most of that time?
Oh, I loved every bit of my work. I loved every minute of it. I did I saw every livestock check. I saw every payroll check. They were paid weekly, an average of about 350 people. And I saw every purchase they made. And I paid all those bills, and I did all the bank reconciliation for all of us. I loved every minute of it. I didn't do the same thing day after day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into the credit union volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
And that time, the company who was treasurer, he was also the hiring of the people there. But the company, Armour and Company, was wonderful sponsors.
They were friendly toward the credit union?
Pardon?
They were friendly to the idea of credit unions.
Yeah, well, they were, well, I'll tell you what we did. We used up their supplies.
Mm-hmm.
When we moved into the building that we built our own, the only thing we took with us was a stapler and an adding machine. That's all we had. No, they really gave us a very good boost. And it was payroll deduction.
Mm-hmm.
See, so here, yeah.
Mm-hmm. When did you first get involved with the credit union there?
Pardon?
When did you first get involved with the Armory Credit Union?
Well, I was I was in the 700. My number is 798. So you can see,
Yeah.
I was there quite a number of years before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they got me in there on the supervisor committee. They has to go through and check that did. And then I joined, see.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't say that, but I said I'm hard of hearing. My hearing aids were bad. And I had to send them in. Yeah. Yeah, they were really wonderful. And then I had a wonderful board of directors. They could do anything that ever went broke. And okay, Roger Woodworth was one of them. He could fix anything. Oh, then we also used the company's addressograph machine, so addressing all our members. Eventually, we inherited when the no more in use. And Arnold Gardner was on the board of directors, and he's the one that insisted on that we get all the people's name and use the addressograph. Jimmy Johnson was good. Roger Woodworth was very good. Wonderful board of directors. Yep. They did their work well.
Okay.
In how I got started, this is Charlie Thirst was treasurer, and he had a heart attack several times. So they asked me to go out while he was gone, and I did this. And then he came back, and Darrell Leckett and his wife were going to do it. And then Charlie had another attack, and that was the end of him for his work there. And Darrell Leckett and his wife was going to do it, and they fell through. And the other one was, they were local people, but they're not here anymore. I can't think of their name. He and his wife were going to take it. And then they were in it. They'd have done a good job. They decided to go to Texas. So I thought, well, as long as I'm always stepping in here when somebody needs it and that, I says, I'll just take it and do it. So for 15 years, I worked the clock around. Besides doing my armor work, I also did the credit union. So the last 15 years, when it was an armor credit union.
Okay, that's before the merger that became Dakota Land?
Yeah, well, that was before. See, the plant closed. Okay, so we made our own building out there.
Yep.
We left the building. They bought it. Company bought it for their employment house. And then we went to 9th Street, where the insurance is in now. And then we went to we bought that from Northwest. Can I tell you what we paid for it?
Okay.
$250,000.
Okay.
And they were going to give us a loan. We had $500,000 in reserve.
Well.
And the reason we never lost a member, that a lot of people had fear because the Armors was closing, say. Okay, when then they were going to close out their account, we had a statement on the bulletin board. I says, I'll show you why you shouldn't close out your account. I said, see this total of loans we got? I said, okay, if none of you ever paid those loans, I said, look the reserve down here. See, that covers every loan you have made, and then you'll still get some back if we disperse. And we never lost any members.
Yep.
Yeah.
The members, the people that continued to work out there afterwards,
they're still there.
Yeah, some of them anyhow. Yeah. Okay.
Well, see what we had. We had if you bring your account. Well, we were limited by the fathers of armors, in Chicago, what we're supposed to do and what we're not. So anybody couldn't have more than $2,000 in there.
Really?
And we had carried insurance like that. If something happened to you, if you had $2,000 in, they'll match the $2,000. I don't know if that's still there or not, where they can do that.
Yeah.
And we paid for the loan protection. Yeah.
I don't believe that that's a limit anymore because I'm a member and I got more money in there than that. So. Yeah.
Well, I see it's they've grown, so it'd be a very big expense.
Yeah.
It would be for them to carry it, but it was nice then. Yeah.
Now the other ones that joined with.
Somebody came in with.
At that time. It was James Valley, which was a farmer cooperative associated with the old Cooperative.
Yeah.
And that included most of us at the Farmers Union office.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, in fact, what was it? I think when Ellen Marion put that in the paper, some guys felt bad because the Farmers Union, is that what I'm talking about? They felt like they should have got some credit for that. But they joined us. We were already established when but they were good to us. I mean, they joined, and I think they're still members.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. What did you like about credit unions? You were involved with them for quite a while, as opposed to just being a depositor at a bank or something.
Yeah. Well, I think I knew everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We all knew each other. In fact, people would go and look at a car, and then the dealer would call me and ask if he would borrow him the money if he bought the car. They were ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then when the plant closed, Worthington still belonged. Well, when they came back on weekends, we waited. We took care of them. We always took care of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And everybody in Armours, one time we had an annual meeting, and Armours give us, I don't know if they give us a half hog or a whole hog for a door prize. And we had 500 people, 400. They could bring the wives. We filled up the planes for our annual meeting. Yeah.
What was there? Was there a connection between the union and the credit union?
No, there was, but a lot of people thought there was. But while everybody was a member, but 2 people did not belong to the union. They never joined. I talked to them. I said, well, we're not connected, see. But then we had everybody out there join, but 2, and they were non-union.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you still there when the union was disbanded or voted out or whatever?
Well, I did, but I really didn't have too much to do. Well, and I think people in the union served, volunteered, and did a good job.
Yeah.
Loan committee, and they were the ones that sent them in.
Yeah.
And and they knew them better than I did.
Mm-hmm.
And we had payroll reduction for everything. 1 check a week.
Yeah.
1 check, I think it was $10,000 a week. So we went to the annual meeting out in Rapid City. Roger Woodworth and Jimmy Johnson. And it was a stormy day. And there was the, Citibank guy was out there giving us a program. And anyways, when I come back, I said, boys, you come in here and stop on your work off because we're going to do that. And they said, Emma, are you sure we are doing that right? And I said, we get $10,000 a week. I can send that on in long before we have our $10,000, and we could get 4 days interest. And then we'd bring it back as we needed it. We got daily interest, the Citibank, and we did all right with that. Because we got it as 1 check. And I wrote the checks for Armours, so I always saw that it was there on time and put it and sent it on in. But they always kept this. Who said, "Em, are you sure we're going to do the right thing?" I said, "We're going to do the right thing." Yeah. And now Citibank is in Huron, in Sioux Falls. Yeah.
They weren't in South Dakota at all in those days.
That's right. Yeah. When all our money went to New York.
Yeah. Okay. What were the main differences you could see at that time between your operation and, say, another lender in town or another savings?
Well, we thought we could pay, the most we could pay is 6. See, I don't know if the banks paid more, could pay more or not, I don't know. But I think we always pay the maximum to our members. Yeah. And then to keep only $2,000 in, that's all we let them have because of our fathers in Chicago. And they didn't want, only you had to be a member worked. Well, and we had to have an audit by them and send it to them. I sent it 1 year, we sent it to them. And then I thought, I didn't let the wives go out. I thought, I'm going to take that chance, stay there. But we couldn't grow either way. We were limited to the amount, to the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, because no children, see? They want no children.
And that restriction disappeared when Armour left? And
when they closed, Armour's left.
Was it Swift took over then?
They
didn't impose any limit on the amount of deposits either then, did they? Or?
No. No, we just went on our own. We just
Yeah.
went that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
Well, because I figured this way, they'll be changing manager, and they.
Mhm.
And
And of course, there was an expansion of who could belong too.
no, at that time, I think. Well, anyone. I mean,
Initially, it was maybe the members of those two credit unions that could belong, right?
Yeah. Well, there was some, but we kept those people came out because we were away. Now we didn't have a sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
See, Armours couldn't do much with us. We changed our name.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now then we were on our own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today, where of course, there's almost everybody in Huron could almost belong.
Yes. Well, now it is.
There are stations over at, or offices over at Volga and Brookings.
Yeah. Well, Brookings went down the hill and they bought it. They bought the debts and that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But we knew everybody.
Hmm. What sort of loans did you make in those days? If you were only on
Car.
cars, that was it, huh?
Cars, really, and pickups.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Mostly cars and pickups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anybody ever do a boat?
Probably now later on,
Yeah.
but I never did a boat.
Okay. And certainly no home loans at that time.
No. Well, I tell you, when Charlie Thurston was manager before he passed away, they got burnt with one building. The guy burned it down.
Mm-hmm.
All we ended up with was so there was two real estates, and they turned bad on us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you do any farm type stuff? Because you probably had some members who were farming too, as well as working in town.
Yeah, they did, but we never.
Never did anything like that. Well, you were pretty restricted on the amount of money you had available.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, and the amount. I mean, we could only. We had a limit. The signature was only only 500.
Yeah.
The signature loan. Yeah.
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 Did you ever get any flack from the bankers who were saying that you weren't playing fair because you didn't, because of the way a credit union operates and
Well,
counting whether they made any money or not?
one of this transaction took us to a court in Sioux Falls.
Really?
Yeah, and it was a fellow that he wasn't, whatever he didn't do it right. Okay, the plant was closing, see, and we had these people, and I went into their homes, and there were hot days just like we had. It was very hot. I thought that was a good day to go. They'd be home in the house sitting in. And I did, and people that I thought would probably not take care of their obligation, I went into their house, and I asked them to sign that I could step in and take their severance pay. And one guy took us to court, and we went down to Sioux Falls. We won it, and he had a sign that I could step in and take his severance pay. We did that. No, we lost very, very little. In fact, I'll tell you, the years that we went where we're at now, it was just in the 5 digits, very low for losses.
Mm-hmm.
For losses, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really surprised the hot date I went out. Nobody really caused me, well, just that one guy caused me any problem. I got their signature, and I said, now I'm going to take that out of your severance pay. Yeah. No, nobody ever got ugly with me. And the board directors too. With the members, they did. They sent them to me.
Mm-hmm.
They were good advertisers out in the plant. They mingled back and forth with the people, just walking dinner in them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, spellouts.
Most of your experience there, obviously, was with a relatively small credit union operation. You were doing two jobs
yes.
at the same time. How would you view that as compared to, say, what we have today, which is really huge compared to that?
Well, they tackle anything.
Yeah, and they do all kinds of services. I don't know if there's a service a bank does that they don't do there now.
Yeah, I think they pretty much.
I don't know if they've done any farm loans, but almost everything.
They do.
Do they? Okay.
I get the credit report.
Oh, you do? Okay, I don't see that. So. Okay.
To some mighty big ones.
Oh, okay.
Mighty,
Right.
mighty big ones. I would have never tackled them. No way, unless it was an irrigation project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What about working relationships with the other credit unions in town? At that time, there were several of them.
Oh, it was great. It was great. We all knew each other. Fanny Smiths,
Mm-hmm.
she was with the government. What you call the railroad gal, Lavon Palissy. We called each other.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'll never forget Lavon Palissy called me and she said she had a bad loan on this man. And I said, she asked me one time, do you cover his loan in the loan protection? I said, I did. Any of our people that were still alive, I carried them because then if they die young or something like that, I said, you can get that money. It was Lavon Palissy, and she did. She had one of them, and he did die young and got it covered. Of course, she paid it. They paid premiums on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we conversed back and forth.
Okay.
And the teacher's education, who was the head of that then?
I don't know.
Yeah. I know M.O. was Fanny Smith's.
Mm-hmm.
Lavon was the railroad. Oh, well, then we had that telephone in the city. They're still in the same building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just had like one employee down at the old co-op, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
think she almost had everything. She did it at home at night and had it in a shoebox or something.
Yeah, but she was not dedicated. I mean,
No.
she didn't put a lot of work. You gotta. Well, nor did the other people, the farmers either. Like they just got that little extra money, and
Mm-hmm.
they never tried to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had, I think, when the merger happened, we had something like $100,000 of assets.
Yeah.
Not much.
Yeah. But look at all we had for we didn't have any expenses
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because we used the company's paper and
Yeah.
their whatever the copy machine, ghetto machine, all their equipment we used. You know.
Mm-hmm. It may have been somewhat similar to that for most of the credit unions in town back in those days.
I think the government is they have to pay a rental. Yeah, but now they're billed out there, so yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you work with the Credit Union League out of Sioux Falls?
I just went to their annual meetings.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I did.
Mhm.
Yeah. My, they got big.
Did you get a lot out of the meetings? You learn a lot.
Yes, I did. Yeah. Well, if we wouldn't have gone out to Rapid City, with snow and everything, we'd have never gotten into the city bank because they were there representing themselves.
Mm-hmm. About when would that have been?
Okay, I was still. I was working for Farmers then. I wasn't handling the art, or was I? No, I don't know. I think I probably just went as a employee or something.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I went with the board of directors. Yeah.
Okay, and we talked a little bit earlier about other cooperatives. Of course,
Well, there was a co-op station at Carpenter years ago.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, Yale had a co-op creamery.
Mm-hmm.
They all went kaput.
Carpenter. I'm not sure where that's at now, but Yale, there's the elevator cooperative over there.
Yeah, and the creamery. Yeah.
Creameries are all pretty well defunct.
Yeah.
The old business of taking in cream is pretty well gone. Nobody's got dairy cows out here unless they're big operations anymore.
Yeah, that's a terror. I mean, and by the way, what was I going to say? My dad was on the farmer's elevator, so he had an inventory of the grain with other board members.
Mm-hmm.
One year they did that to show you how good they were. They found a terrible shortage of grain.
Mm.
You know where it was? a carload of grain that hadn't been sold was still sitting in Minnesota. Now, they did their job.
Yeah.
The shrinkage was high, and so at least they knew it was out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
And here was a carload of grain still sitting in Minneapolis that hadn't been sold.
Do you, was there much cooperation or communications between when you were at the credit union with, outside of credit unions, with the other co-ops around?
No.
Yeah.
See, everything was everything was just, they were only open a few hours.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, now that's what make us go, our own building, and then we hired a person. She was there when the people got off work. We knew what time they were going to get off work and catch them on their way home.
Sure.
Yeah, it was an ideal location.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you think at that time, certainly probably credit union members understood how their business operated and how it was different than other lending institutions?
Well, I think the younger one were willing to learn. I mean, they were. You told them to do something or bring something, and it was done. They brought it to you, and they did it. You know.
Mm-hmm. You think that's still the case? You think people still understand?
No. I think what I find out is people. They have people working for them. They could handle more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got too many people out there, and not a one could handle anything that came up. They're just in that one little cage. I mean, it's just,
Mm-hmm. An element of being larger.
Pardon?
Probably an element of being larger.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Almost inevitable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you think cooperative education is important when people, to actually expending some money to make sure that people understand their business?
I think that's needed any time. I think that's needed any time. But the banks aren't very honest. The banks are, and I was always honest. I told them, okay, and here was another thing that I always told them. So we only paid interest once a year, at the end of the year. Okay. So if you came in December, and I told several people, see, they wanted to take it out. I said, don't take it out, we're going to pay you dividends, see? And I said, just borrow against it. We'll use that for collateral, and you go pay your bill, and then we'll make the transaction when it's all taken over you. And you've earned yours, and you're going to spend it.
Mm-hmm.
You just had to pay a little money for that money until, I did. I told them how it was. Yeah.
Being a volunteer takes commitment. How do you find time to do all that?
Well, I was alone. I lived alone all the time. So I was alone, so I could do just what I wanted to. And I love math. I had a wonderful fourth grade teacher. I can multiply, divide, and subtract, and all that. And I really give him credit because I do love figures. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm. At this point, I think we're going to bounce back a little bit. You were 11 years old in 1929?
1918, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so what do you remember about the 1930s?
Terrible.
On the farm. You want to talk about that a little bit? We're kind of bouncing around a little bit.
Yeah. It was terrible. We had to burn the lamps all day, and the dust came in the house. And the picture that I had in the paper, look what the farm looked like after 20-some years of putting it there. Mm-hmm. And we had to carry the water every place. And then we had to bucket the milk after we milked. We had to bucket it into the separator and divide us, and then bucket the skim milk to the calves to feed them. It was all work, very hard work. Mm-hmm. Buckets and buckets. But I'll say one thing, I was glad I was there 18 years instead of 18 years in a city.
Mm-hmm.
They made a good person. Yeah.
Despite all the hardships on the farm during those years.
In fact, that's what I go to Norby's that way, and I said, I told him, and he said, you hated every minute of it, didn't you? I said, I sure did, but I had to stay 18 years, see? And then he said, but it made a good person out of you, and I thought that is true. Mm-hmm. That is true, yeah. But, we worked as soon as you could walk or anything like that. I mean, there was always something to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, with 10 people to wash for, there was another thing. Carry the water to the wash house, carry the clothes to the clothesline, another way distance around. Nothing was handy. And so we had 16 horses. Can you imagine getting them ready in the morning, got in the field, and they came home for dinner? Fed the hogs, and they had to go all through that. And we were sitting at the dinner table, but then some had left home. We had an old pair of horses, Queen and King. And my brother was looking out the door, and he says, look, folks, look. We looked out there. Those horses went to the wagon where we unhitched them to have their food and water, and all you had to do was raise the tongue. They were in a position, that's all we had to do. I saw that. We saw that. We watched it. They knew their job.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it was all hard work. It was terrible. And then all that dust with the fences and all that, it started over again. Oh, God, I don't know why they did, but what are you going to do? I mean, yeah.
I talked to one guy whose father had put in a bunch of fruit trees, and they all died. Did trees die around your area?
We didn't have any.
You didn't have any. Okay.
There was no trees out there then, not until the soil bank came in.
Mm-hmm.
That way. Yeah.
Now, some folks talk about how people were, as somebody put it, more neighborly then. Do you think that was true out in the countryside? Did neighbors visit?
Oh yeah, they went to visit. Yeah, they went to visit all in spite of. Well, we played ball.
Mm-hmm.
We had a corner in Eddie Stall was folks lived nearby, and we played ball. It was about 2 miles from home, but there were enough of us there.
Mm-hmm. You almost had enough for a team in your family.
That's right, and we did. We played a lot of ball, horseshoe and that. And my dad set up 5 boys in farming. That's what my dad did. And you could almost say they ended up with nothing. And out of those 5 boys, some more boys came along. Today, there's only going to be 2 there. One of them is my brother's son. They'll be on that farm, and the other one is my niece. This boy will be far, but is in with his dad. Just those 2 farms, and he set up 5 alone. But it took they all used his machinery, his horses, and everything. I can really say, when I look at my folks just never had any good time. It was just all work. And nobody left home because they couldn't find anything.
Mm-hmm.
Just once around in the neighborhood. 75 cents a day to pitch corn stalks that they had cut, and they froze to the ground. My brother said to me, for 75 cents a week, I had to rip those corn stalks out of that ice. And he said, that's where I got my piles. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But we all survived. Yeah.
Do you think that that experience growing up during those years had an impact on your outlook on life later on?
Oh, it did. I wasn't going to be in a farm. I was not going to be a slave like my mother. No way. No. And then I started on for $20 a week. Well, how can you buy a car or anything? So I was 40 years old when I got my first car.
Hmm.
Yeah. I paid my sister's husband, they live in Kansas City. He found a good deal, and he brought it up here for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I did. I mean, I was never going to do like my mother. I mean, no electricity. You got electricity? My dad never saw electricity.
He didn't.
He died before, not very long before we got it. But we didn't have it when he passed away, and he passed away in 47.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did your mom stay on the farm then, or?
Yeah, she stayed right there with those buildings. Yes, she did. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now, at least according to Tom Brokaw and a lot of other people, I think too, the other thing that influenced those that your particular generation was World War II. What was your experience of that here in Huron?
Well, my younger brother went, and he was over in. Anyway, he mentioned this, that his commanding officer was Thanksgiving dinner, and he told him, he said, you boys have really got something to be thankful for. They were scheduled to go across the Nile River, and they expected 85% loss. But see, it just came on the right time. They didn't have to go. You know, that's where so many lost their lives. They were flying across that river, never had the clothing to go with where they were located.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I remember my brother said that. He said, you're very fortunate. Yeah.
Was he around the Battle of the Bulge?
Pardon?
Was he around the Battle of the Bulge there?
He was he was young. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was Saipan or something like, I don't know, something was there. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he came home.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
What was things like here in Huron then?
Well, I came here.
You were just getting started.
I just came here. I walked every place. No car, and then babysat. That's how I got through.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I got a job, I just dropped everything at the college. I did. But I went later on in night school and took comptometry work. That was the one machine you could add, multiply, divide, and everything. I did that, but I have no credits.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Well, you said you walked. Was there any kind of public transportation in town in those days?
Well, okay,
Was there
no.
buses or anything?
The city was nice enough and got a bus, say. And then maybe they took us out. One of the fellows picked us up at the post office. We had to go to the post office, and he picked us up and took us there. Mm-hmm. And the bus would come and take us home. But you know how people are, to save a few pennies in that, from paying the bus, they took the free ride, so they discontinued.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do you think living through those particular years, did that influence you later on too, having been through the rationing and all the things that went on during the war years?
I was going to make it. I was on my mind. I was going to get a job. Yes, I was. I was determined. Yeah. Yeah. And I did. Yeah. And I had a few people walk out on me at the credit union. But it didn't bother me when they did. I knew how to do the work, regardless of what it was. I stayed and did it, and the shack was near the watchman's shack. So I worked a lot at night, very late. They were so good to me. They said, "Emma, you better pack up. The storm is coming." They'd bring my car up. It was parked outside the plant deal. They'd bring my car up for me. They were wonderful, the watchmen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I was never afraid to go to work any time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huron has changed a lot over the years. Do you like the
Oh, terrible. Just recently terrible. Yeah, just terrible. Yeah. I don't know, but it needed changing. Yeah, it needed, because it was just going to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What year did you retire then?
I worked for them 42 years. I did. I went out when the plant went out.
Okay. And about 1984?
Yes, 1984.
Yeah.
That was to my benefit, and I did not know that. I said I wanted to work. Well, I was with the credit union, see, so I thought, God, if I have to come out here anyway, I might just as well work. So they said it was okay, but I couldn't add to any of my benefits for nothing. So, yeah, that was a smart thing I did.
Did you work for Dakota Land for a while then?
For who?
Dakota Land, the merged credit union?
I just moved in. I just moved in with them, and I went out. No, I didn't. I didn't work there at all. No, no. But I remember the day they wanted to give us a loan to buy it. Well, let's see. We had no expenses, and I got $25 a week or a month doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot. That's the way I feel about. I work for 2 business people in this town. They paid me minimum wage, and one of them, I set up the books for them. There was an old set there, and I set them up. See, and I got just like everybody else, minimum wage. That's all they paid me, and I thought, well, it's my fault. They asked me to come to work for them. I didn't ask to work for them, and that's where I should have. Yeah. But I learned a lot. I say that. I learned more than if I had gone to college. I was alone, and I had to learn it.
Well, they call it the School of Hard Knocks.
Pardon?
They call that the School of Hard Knocks. Learning on the job.
Yeah.
So, what have you been doing since you retired?
Volunteered a lot.
Volunteer a lot. What do you volunteer at?
Okay. You remember Stahl Sports Bar? So I knew them. I was very good friends of theirs. And I said to his wife, and I knew Marge well, I said, Marge, I said, I'd like to. She said, would you see that those guys are paying us? She said, you watch and see if those guys are paying the South Dakota sales tax right, see? I says, Marge, I'll do better than that. I says, let me set up your books or something so we know that things are okay and you're getting all the money you should. I said, I don't want no pay. I just want to see if I could do it. And she said, go ahead. And I did. Now, that was good learning. But I said, you guys have to give me an inventory. Yeah. And that's just how, but I'd offer it. But the other people came and asked me, but I asked them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give someone today who was thinking about maybe going to work for a credit union or being involved in that?
What I tell everybody, you better get to college if you want a paying job. That's what I tell them. I say, if you've got to have an education to get a good job, look at the paper. Look at the good jobs in the paper. Oh, I just, and by doing this, I was all alone in this office. So I had to do everything that was needed, on a very small scale. Yeah, which was a very big help. Yeah.
Would you describe yourself as an optimist or a pessimist?
Oh, well, I don't know. Probably neither.
Neither, okay. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add that I didn't ask you about? Anything else you'd like to discuss?
Well, I liked every job I ever did. I was glad to get to go to work. I really did. Yeah. And I liked the people I worked with. I don't feel I was what you call exceptionally good. That he gave me a feeling that I was, but it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me one bit. I was going to see that work gets done, whether you do it or not. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I was the best boss, but I was my own. Yeah. I had a strong constitution, I really do. But I'm going to get something done. I'm going to get it done.
Think maybe your years on the farm that you had something to do with that?
Yes. Oh, I didn't want to be any part of that farm. I really just did. Well, I did everything. I shocked. Well, 5 boys and all farming. We were all in there. I pitched bundles into the thrashing machine.
Mm-hmm.
I shocked with but the shock was bigger than I am. The grain was in shock. But somebody was with me. Somebody was with me to show me how.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think it kept us busy. We were out of the house. Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't like any of that indoor stuff.
So, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've been visiting with Emma Glanzer. Thank you for participating in the Cooperative Legacy Project.